will have relations with North Korea after the prime minister confirmed both countries would work towards the complete denuclearization of North Korea.
I got along with them very well, as you know. I think I stopped the war.
Rounding things out, the president announced he would be imposing reciprocal tariffs on other countries as early as Monday of next week. Daniel Baldwin, OAN American News, the White House.
And the Pentagon is deploying an additional 1,500 active duty troops to the southern border, bringing the total to 3,600 service members. That deployment was announced on Friday, approving the movement of a logistics brigade from the 18th Airborne Corps at Fort Liberty in North Carolina. The order is part of President Trump's expanding efforts to crack down on illegal immigration. The troops will help install barbed wire barriers and provide support with transportation, intelligence, and Border Patrol assistance.
President Donald Trump won a resounding election victory in part by promising to effectuate the largest mass deportation program in American history. But he's not going to be able to do it if you have states that are trying to kneecap these enforcement efforts, or even if states and localities just simply sit on their hands.
And the Florida governor announcing an agreement with the Department of Homeland Security to deputize state troopers and execute functions of immigration enforcement through ICE's 287G program. That program authorizes ICE to delegate state and local law enforcement officers to perform specified immigration officer functions. It also allows ICE to partner with state and local agencies to identify and remove already incarcerated criminal illegal immigrants eligible for removal before they are released back onto our streets.
This means that FHP state law enforcement officers will be empowered to arrest and detain aliens attempting to unlawfully enter the United States, such as through ports of entry or via waters off Florida's coastline, which is, of course, where we see a lot of the direct involvement with illegals.
And state officials said ICE and DHS have already helped Florida authorities make several sweeps involving Tren de Aragua and MS-13. Democrat Representative Dan Goldman defending himself after being accused of helping illegal Chinese immigrants for uploading a series of posts detailing how to handle an encounter with ICE. On Friday, a spokesperson for Goldman said the congressman will always provide constituents with information to protect them from extrajudicial threats and intimidation. The New York rep was accused by multiple users on X earlier this week of trying to shield criminal illegal immigrants with his video, in which he lamented the Trump administration's policies enforcing immigration. The video was also posted in both Spanish and Chinese.
The next 4 years may look uncertain, but one thing is crystal clear. You and everybody has rights under the law that no president or a law enforcement officer can ever take away.
And this is Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, said there are federal statutes in place for knowingly concealing and harboring immigrants from ICE, along with impeding law enforcement officers, all of which are felonies. All right, House Judiciary Committee Chair Jim Jordan says that he is reaching out to staff members of Fulton County DA Fani Willis to investigate whether they may have colluded with the Democrat-led J6 panel. Here's OAN America's John Hines.
Sir, I wanted to ask you, I know that you have written Fani Willis.
Yeah.
Your committee is investigating Fani Willis and her prosecution, but now you're reaching out to her staff members, I believe?
Yeah, we have some testimony, evidence that some of the people who work for the Fulton County DA's office were actually in contact with folks here in D.C., January 6th Committee and others. So we want to double check that. We've written them. We want information. We'd like to talk to these folks. So we'll see. I mean, this case has fallen apart because it was all political. And when we deposed Nathan Wade, he wouldn't answer much of anything. Now, he billed hours to the taxpayers of Fulton County for meetings he had with...
Nathan Wade was the boyfriend of Fani Willis.
Yeah. And
he was working for her.
Right. And he billed, no longer working on the case, But he billed hours, and when we asked him in the deposition, he goes, well, yeah, I billed it, so it happened. We said, well, did you talk to him in person? Where did you meet? Did you do it by Zoom? He couldn't remember anything. So, which is, go figure. So now we're trying to get information from the other folks. All part of this, this whole lawfare operation that was run by the Democrats against President Trump.
You mentioned lawfare. Is there some evidence that there was coordination, perhaps, with the Biden White House that you're aware of?
I think it sure looks that way, but we're trying to pin all that down. The fact that Nathan Wade was up here talking with people in the January 6th committee, people in the White House, we think that's a concern. Because, again, we think this was a coordinated, concerted effort by Democrats, both in D.C. and in New York and in Atlanta, to go after President Trump. And, of course, the takeaway from it all is it didn't work. Just didn't work. In fact, I think it's one of the reasons President Trump won and got 77 million people to vote for him.
Isn't the Bar Association asking questions about Fani Willis there in Georgia? Is that?
Well, if they're not, they should be, because it sure seems like this arrangement with Nathan Wade and this whole case and using RICO statute is just like makes no sense to me. But I don't know for sure if they are or not.
What do you make of Pam Bondi basically taking to court some of the sanctuary cities' mayors and governors?
Yeah, God bless her. I think this is great. I think Pam's off to an amazing start. We knew she'd be great. But yeah, I think when you're a sanctuary city and you're helping people who've broken the law, who Tom Homan and ICE are trying to repatriate, that's a concern. And then you have what we hear of people giving seminars and instructions on how to avoid ICE. That seems troubling to me as well. So no, I appreciate the Attorney General's leadership on this and so many other issues.
Meanwhile, on Tuesday you have a big hearing. You have, I think, Matt Taibbi is coming back.
Yeah, Matt Taibbi, Michael Schellenberger, Rupa Subramanye. She was the Canadian journalist who covered the trucker blockade. But, of course, Schellenberger gave us the term, at least he's the first one I heard use it, the censorship industrial complex, big government pressuring big tech to then censor Americans, mostly conservative Americans. It happened on all these platforms. We know it happened. Mark Zuckerberg told us it happened. He sent us a letter, said Biden administration pressured us to censor. We did it. We're sorry. We ain't going to do it again. But Taibbi and Schellenberger were some of the first authors or journalists to author the Twitter files and tell us what was going on in this whole censorship operation. So we're bringing them back to highlight all the gains we've made in the last few years on protecting the First Amendment, and frankly to begin to highlight what's going on in Europe, where the European Union is really involved in a censorship effort, and it is wrong. And are there things we can do here in America to help protect free speech in Europe and around the world?
Thank you, sir.
You bet. Take care.
Appreciate your time.
And the president has signed an executive order to mandate the Department of Justice review every policy regarding firearms. The order signed on Friday mandates an investigation into policies which infringed on the Second Amendment rights to keep and bear arms. The president said that the Second Amendment is indispensable to safeguard for security and liberty, and that because it is foundational for American freedom, it shall not be infringed. This order is in response to numerous policies under Joe Biden's administration, which rights groups say infringe on the Second Amendment. And the White House releases a statement on the January jobs report. Friday, Press Secretary Leavitt said the report reveals the Biden economy was far worse than anyone thought. It showed U.S. employers added 143,000 jobs last month. She also said the report underscores the necessity of President Trump's pro-growth policies. During his first week in office, Trump declared a national emergency, energy emergency that is, to make America energy dominant again, cut 10 regulations for every new regulatory action, and outlined plans for tax cuts. Leavitt says Trump is delivering on his promises to restore the broken economy, revive small business optimism, create jobs, and ignite a new golden age for America. And welcome back. New space restrictions near Reagan Washington National Airport will remain in place. The FAA reiterating on Friday, helicopters and airplanes are not allowed to share airspace over the Potomac River near DCA. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy announced the restrictions following last week's deadly mid-air collision between that Army Black Hawk helicopter and the American Airlines plane. The FAA posted on its website Friday saying the restrictions will stay in place until the NTSB completes its preliminary investigation. The FAA says it's supporting the NTSB's probe and will take additional action if it becomes necessary. All right, despite being fired by President Trump, Democrat Federal Elections Commissioner Ellen Weintraub refusing to leave her office. As of Friday, Weintraub is refusing to leave her post, despite being told by President Trump in a January 31st letter her services on the commission were no longer required. She claims her firing is illegal and unconstitutional due to the independent nature of this commission. Weintraub has been on the commission since 2002 and has used her position to criticize President Trump's claims of alleged voter fraud in the 2020 election. And prosecutors in the corruption case against the former mayor of Oakland say it will take months to turn over all the evidence collected against her. At the first day of the trial Thursday, federal prosecutors against Sheng Tao said that they have already turned over 140 gigabytes or 250,000 files to the defense team for review. They are alleging that the former Democrat mayor, who was successfully removed from office in a November recall election, worked with her partner to receive $300,000 in bribes from wealthy Oaklanders who control the city's cycling centers. All right, Democrats attempt to storm the Department of Education to speak with the acting secretary. Here's One America's Taylor Tinsley.
Thank you. Okay, we're coming in. We're coming in. We're coming in. Don't lock the door. We're coming in. Who are you?
30 House Democrats are blocked from entering the Department of Education building in Washington, D.C. This comes after Trump said he wants to shut the department down through an executive order.
So we're ranked number 40 out of 40 schools, right? We're ranked number 1 in cost per pupil. So we spend more per pupil than any other country in the world. And we're ranked at the bottom of the list. We're ranked very badly. And what I want to do is let the states run schools. I believe strongly in school choice.
The Education Department has a $268 billion annual budget. It oversees $1.6 trillion in federal student loans and grants and makes sure public schools comply with federal laws. Since the department was created through an act of Congress, Trump cannot get rid of it through an executive order. It's going to have to be abolished the same way it was created.
But the executive branch is not coming to Congress to work with us. So today, Congress is coming to the executive branch. It's coming to you.
The more than 24 congressional lawmakers were trying to meet with Acting Education Secretary Denise L. Carter. Since lawmakers couldn't get inside, they turned to badgering the man guarding the door, who's reportedly with the Office of Security, Facilities, and Logistics Services at the agency.
Let him get recorded in history for what he's doing today. Let his children see him. Let his children know that he was standing in the way of all children being educated. Look them in the eye. Come on, hold your face up. Look at him. Let him see you. This is him. Look at it. What's your name? Tell us your name. Give me that ID again.
The uproar comes after the nation's report card showed 4th and 8th grade reading scores dropped 5 points since 2019, showing little to no progress made in correcting the decline of performance since the coronavirus. Trump may have the support needed in Congress to abolish the department. In January, Republican Congressman Thomas Massie reintroduced a bill that would get rid of the agency with 30 Republican co-sponsors. Taylor Tinsley, One America News.
And a suspect is arrested in connection with the death of Kansas City reporter Aiden Menzano. Kenner police in Louisiana announced Friday they have arrested Danette Colbert after they discovered she was using the victim's credit card in New Orleans. Investigators reviewed security footage of the suspect with Menzano on the morning of his death Wednesday, but have not yet revealed the cause. Menzano was in New Orleans on assignment to cover the Super Bowl. The suspect has so far only been charged with bank fraud and theft. but has previously been accused of drugging a man to steal his credit cards. And live bird markets across New York are being shuttered after the detection of bird flu in 3 New York City boroughs. Governor Hochul spoke on the decision Friday, saying there have been 7 cases of bird flu detected in Brooklyn, the Bronx, and Queens. The cases were discovered during routine inspections. All infected birds will be depopulated. The closure begins today and will last until next Friday.
For a week-long period, no poultry can be delivered to those live bird markets. Each uninfected market must sell down all inventory, undergo thorough cleaning and disinfection, and then remain closed for at least 5 days. Each must then be inspected by our state egg and markets before they can reopen. These are just simply measured, common sense steps that'll curb the spread of bird flu and ultimately to keep New Yorkers safe, which is always my top priority.
And Hochul says there's a low threat to public health and that the move is being made out of an abundance of caution. All right, grocery store chain Trader Joe's placing a limit on the amount of eggs shoppers are allowed to buy. In a recent email, a spokesperson for the company said due to ongoing issues in the supply of eggs, customers are being limited to 12 eggs each per day across America. The bird flu outbreak, which began in 2022, is reportedly to blame for skyrocketing prices. Trader Joe's hopes the limit will ensure as many customers who need eggs will be able to buy them when they visit their stores. The company's websites list the price of 12 large pasture-raised eggs at around $5. Okay, straight ahead, the U.S. looks to stop the killing in Central. And welcome back. U.S. looking to impose sanctions against Congolese and Rwandan officials amid the ongoing conflict between the 2 Central African nations. Reports on Friday say the U.S. sent a diplomatic note to Kenya declaring that stability in the region means Rwanda withdraws its troops from eastern Congo. The note said sanctions will be imposed against those non-compliant on both sides of this conflict. Rwanda invaded eastern Congo in 2022 to back rebel groups against the Congolese army, with Congolese officials saying it was all because of minerals.
Our neighbors, Rwanda and other global powers, invade us because of our mineral wealth. That is the core of all these problems. It is no coincidence that I spearheaded multiple parliamentary actions against the illegal exploitation of our minerals in the East.
And some Congolese lawmakers rejecting demands for negotiations due to the principles of territorial integrity and democracy. Well, a week of hundreds of small earthquakes in Greece's tourist hotspot, Santorini, is reviving concerns of safety amid a decades-long boom in construction. Take a look.
Hundreds of small quakes in Santorini this week have renewed concerns about the safety of decades-long cliffside construction. Experts have long questioned the sustainability of Santorini's tourism boom. And that's particularly true of the caldera, the rim of an ancient sunken volcano whose sides plunge into the clear waters of the Aegean. A 2021 report found that many buildings there had no permits, nearly a quarter of which were tourism businesses. Eftimios Lekas is an expert in dynamic tectonic and applied geology.
Those that have occupied the caldera and built on morphological discontinuities, those buildings are particularly vulnerable, so we cannot foresee the behavior of those buildings.
Scientists have warned that the seismic activity could last for weeks, and they have not ruled out the possibility of a larger quake to come. The tremors prompted the government to declare a state of emergency on Thursday. It shut schools and deployed the army. Meanwhile, thousands of people left on planes and ferries. Authorities announced landslide warnings for 5 areas, including Santorini's main port. They also cordoned off areas along the caldera, where the Environment Ministry had halted construction in November. Greece's Prime Minister, Kyriakos Mitsotakis, urged calm when he visited the island on Friday, saying that Greece has a very strict building code. Many residents have become used to earthquakes over the years. But for ateliers like Matthias Coriolis, there are fears for the upcoming holiday season.
If we continue for another couple of months with this situation, the season will be lost, surely. If there is a decrease in the event, and there is less media attention, and the seismic activity calms down, we are in a time frame where we will be able to recover.
Είμαστε σε ένα τέτοιο χρονικό πλαίσιο στο οποίο θα μπορέσουμε να επανέλθουμε λιγάκι.
Millions visit Santorini's whitewashed cobbled streets and blue-domed buildings each year. In recent years, excessive tourism has raised concerns about shortages and overcrowding across Greece.
And Sweden is looking to tighten its already tight gun laws after a deadly shooting at an adult school earlier this week. Zachary Goldman has our report.
In response to the deadliest mass shooting in Sweden's history, the country's right-wing government on Friday said it would seek to tighten the nation's gun laws.
No worst enemy.
On a visit to Latvia, Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson said the government was re-evaluating who might receive licenses for weapons and what manner of weapons would be permitted.
It's about tightening up the regulations to get permission to have a weapons license at all. It's about banning certain types of these semi-automatic weapons. And we are also adding a further proposal that the police and the social services need a better opportunity to investigate whether there are medical reasons not to grant a person a gun license.
Swedish police on Thursday said the suspect had a license for 4 guns, and 3 of them were found with him. They said they recovered 10 empty magazines and a large quantity of unused ammunition from the scene. Local media have reported the perpetrator had a hunting license as well. The government has agreed with its parliament to tighten up the vetting process for people applying for gun licenses and to clamp down on some semi-automatic weapons. Police say they have found no evidence of an ideological motive so far.
And straight ahead on One America News, the government stands up. And welcome back, I'm Mike Deneau. Congressional Republicans are preparing to unveil a tax and spending package as early as this weekend. That's according to a statement on Friday from House Speaker Johnson, who adds that a markup of the plan is expected on Tuesday. The package aims to extend President Trump's tax cuts, but the cost could add $4 trillion to the U.S. debt. However, the president is urging lawmakers to aim for a balanced budget as they work to cover the costs of the extensions. Here's One America's John Hines.
I just want to get a prediction on what happens with reconciliation, sir.
I wish I knew. Hopefully the president and the speaker come up with a plan. We can't, in the Ways and Means Committee, come up with a tax package until we know the numbers and what the budget resolution is going to look like. So we have to pass the budget resolution first. So hopefully there's some good things that came out of their meeting.
I think we're moving forward. I think it's difficult, and here's the deal with it. We have to work with a scalpel and not a sledgehammer. In my mind, cut DEI wherever we can. Complete waste of money creates more harm than good. Green New Deal, same thing. We're wasting all this money helping actually other countries, supporting and giving money to companies that fit into certain slots. That's not the way we work in America. The best rise is we should have competition in business and not just reward somebody because they fit into that Green New Deal slot. Same issue with the Education Department in Washington. I have no problem cutting that. Just make sure that the good programs that are in there, some of them are good, that help students directly, that it still exists.
Any thoughts about where the reconciliation is going to land?
I think it's going to happen. It's got to happen. Our debt for 2024 was $882 billion with a B, which is more money than the entire defense budget. Next year, it's going up another $50 billion. And in 2026, CBO says it'll be more than $1 trillion. That's money that is just interest payments. It doesn't buy anything, it just services the debt. And as far as the eye can see, every single year it'll be over $1 trillion unless very serious efforts are made to mitigate federal spending.
There's people that are divided about whether it should be 1 or 2, the things that should be involved in each one, how you layer that on top of debt limit and the multiple appropriations that have to take place, and everything going on surrounding kind of one time frame of issue. And so they're all still debates that are literally going on. But every day that we go through them, you do get a little bit further with somebody saying, okay, I can concede on this one and concede on this one. And to make one final point, I think in the end, it's one of those negotiations that you don't have anything until you have everything.
And do you expect to see something maybe next week?
I hope so, because truthfully, it's one of the most vital things that we should have learned from the 2017 when we were going through reconciliation, right? At the time that we did the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, that didn't actually go through until what, November, December, late November, maybe early December. And so the American people didn't have the chance in that tax year to realize the benefits of the tax cuts, and they didn't get to realize it until the following year when they would actually do the tax in April. So, as it related to people seeing benefit, they went through a whole election cycle without seeing the benefit of tax cuts in their actual tax returns. And so you have to do these things earlier so that people can see the work that you're actually doing.
The leadership is still kind of dragging their feet. They haven't settled in. I think they're just going to have to make a call and get bold. The president, I don't know if you saw, he tweeted that he wants a balanced budget. That is that's bold direction, and I hope that the speaker is listening.
He wants a balanced budget, but he also said he didn't want taxes on tips, and I think some Social Security and other things. So it seems like there are a lot of conflicting demands.
So what that means is we need to cut spending, and the truth is that's what this country needs. Americans are dealing with record high inflation because we spend more money than we bring in. We have to cut spending, and if we can cut spending and cut taxes and balance this budget, that's exactly what I want to accomplish as well.
We're working through a couple different options and the numbers, and something's going to happen one way or the other. I just can't handicap which one right now.
Do we expect to have something next week?
Well, that's the word on the street, but you got to be specific, out of the House or the Senate or both or either.
On your side of the
right now, they're expecting something, but members don't know what it is, so it's hard to get people to be for something when they haven't seen it yet. So we'll see.
What do you know about reconciliation, sir?
I know that they're just continuing to try to get to that balance between extending the tax cuts, obviously cutting spending, and trying to find and make those numbers work. And the numbers have to work. And so it's like Sudoku, only a little harder, right?
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
And the Department of Transportation canceling the implementation of the previous administration's electric vehicle network. On Friday, the Federal Highway Administration sent a letter to state transportation agencies saying it is rescinding all guidance regarding national electric vehicle infrastructure. The infrastructure bill passed under Joe Biden allocated $5 billion to build charging stations every 50 miles, but only 7 of the stations were ever built. Defense Secretary Hegseth is shaking up the Pentagon, calling out the military's diversity mantra and vowing to clean up its fiscal mess. Here's One America's Cameron Breckenridge.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is rewriting the Pentagon playbook. In a town hall with Pentagon staff on Friday, Hegseth called out the military's focus on diversity. He says the DoD will treat everyone with fairness under his watch, regardless of one's background.
In this department, we will treat everyone equally. We will treat everyone with fairness. We will treat everyone with respect. And we will judge you as an individual by your merit and by your commitment to the team and the mission. That's how it has been. That's how it will be.
He also outlined his commitment to ensuring the Pentagon passes a clean audit within 4 years. This comes as the DoD failed its 7th audit in a row in November, leading to questions about the spending of American taxpayer dollars. Hegseth says there is a need for accountability, and the American taxpayers deserve to know where their money is going.
The American taxpayers deserve that. They deserve to know where their $850 billion go, how it's spent, and make sure it's spent wisely. It used to be that if you called for an audit, somehow you were undermining the department. I believe the exact opposite.
Hegseth also emphasized the need for strengthening the southern border, noting that border security and national security go hand in hand.
Border security is national security. And as the president has told us, we're going to get 100% operational control of our southern border. And that needs to be and will be a focus of this department.
The new defense secretary also pledged accountability for military leaders in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan under Joe Biden. and once again reiterated his commitment to ending DEI policies within the military. Cameron Breckenridge, One America News.
And House Oversight Subcommittee meeting to talk about the wasting of taxpayer dollars on horrific animal testing. Here's One America's Chloe Hawkswell.
The House Oversight Subcommittee on Cybersecurity, Information Technology, and Government Innovation gathers 3 expert witnesses to take a deep dive into taxpayer-funded animal testing.
Late last year, the White Coat Waste Project exposed more than $10 million in taxpayer funds that were spent creating transgender mice, rats, and monkeys. These DEI grants funded painful and deadly transgender experiments that forced lab animals to undergo invasive surgeries and hormone therapies at universities across the country. For example, the Biden-Harris administration spent $2.5 million taxpayer dollars to study the fertility of transgender mice.
The hearing featured testimony from the Senior Vice President of the White Coat Waste Project, Justin Goodman, Dr. Paul Locke, a professor at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, and Elizabeth Baker, the Director of Research Policy at the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. But by far, the star witnesses were 3 beagles freed from Dr. Anthony Fauci's cruel animal experimentations. The U.S. government spends in excess of $20 billion taxpayer dollars a year conducting experiments on animals. Many of these were under the direction of Fauci when he led the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases at the National Institutes of Health.
Did you say that Dr. Fauci, in your estimation, had funded close to 95% of these animal research projects?
Yeah, in our analysis, Dr. Fauci funded about 95% of the transgender animal experiments.
Due to the biological differences between humans and animals, animal testing frequently does not produce results relevant to humans. In fact, 90% of novel drugs that are successful in animal tests fail in human clinical trials. This does not stop the federal government from funding them, though.
There's this circular reasoning that they use to defend it when they propose a new project. They say, well, we used dogs previously, so we're just going to use dogs again. And there's no one to break that cycle. There's not enough oversight to say, hey, maybe we don't need to do this anymore. Maybe there's a better way to do it.
But there are new technologies that can help transition away from animal testing.
What we need to do is we need to spend a lot more resources supporting these non-animal technologies, such as organs on a chip and organoids, so we can use those to study many of the phenomena we're now studying in animals.
If you can meet your objectives without using animals, there's absolutely no reason that you should.
However, the hearing showcased the need for oversight and transparency as representatives asked pointed questions to uncover some of the horrific truths.
In 2018, we uncovered a lab at the USDA here right outside of the Beltway, where they were breeding hundreds of kittens every year and then flying to China and other foreign countries to these disgusting wet markets and buying dog and cat meat. They were then putting it in their federal employees. They were then putting it in their carry-on luggage, flying it back to the United States, and then force-feeding dog and cat meat to kittens in this government laboratory in Maryland. They had spent $22 million on this project.
For what purpose?
They wanted to know if people eating dog and cat meat in China might be exposed to a particular parasite. The DOJ, until recently, was stabbing, shooting, and blowing up live animals for training exercises. We were able to cut that and defund that. The experiments that the NIH funded and Fauci funded in Tunisia, where they were putting the dogs and heads in mesh cages and filling them with biting flies. Yeah, there's a lot of nightmarish stuff that we're being forced to fund, and taxpayers don't like it, and they don't even know how bad the situation is.
The lawmakers on the panel are hopeful that the hearing will draw much-needed attention to these experiments and prevent taxpayer dollars from needlessly funding animal experimentation. Chloe Hawkswell, One America News.
All right, Vice President J.D. Vance is being tasked alongside National Security Advisor Mike Walls or Waltz, to oversee a potential sale of a popular app, TikTok. On Friday, President Trump asked Vance to negotiate a deal that could save the app from shutting down in the U.S. Vance will be responsible for leading the deal, while Waltz is to handle the national security aspect of that transaction. TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, has until April 19th to divest. Energy Secretary Chris Wright touting Japan's decision to import a record amount of U.S. LNG. Here's One America's chief White House correspondent, Daniel Baldwin.
We're here at the White House, blessed to be joined by the Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright, wrapping up that press conference with Japanese Prime Minister Ishiba. President Trump announcing that Japan will be importing a record amount of American LNG, also talking about a possible joint venture regarding Alaska oil and gas with Japan. This is just momentous stuff when it comes to American energy that'll help trade deficits. Talk about the importance of everything that President Trump announced in that press conference.
Today was a big day today, and I would say before the press conference, a great series of dialogues between leadership from Japan and President Trump and the American delegation. These are two strong, proud countries. That Japan is a great industrial economy, but doesn't have much energy resources. They import their energy resources. We've given them a bit of the cold shoulder the last 4 years, which has not allowed them to buy more natural gas from the U.S. They're buying gas from people they'd less rather purchase from, but you got to get energy where you can. So what President Trump unleashed today was the ability to really grow American exports to Japan. That's a win for U.S. energy, a win for the U.S. economy, increased security and better partnerships for Japan. And as you heard, we even leaked out the possibility there could be a large new development in Alaska to unleash Alaskan natural gas from the North Slope of Alaska down to the coast to be exported, very short ship traffic straight to Japan through secure protected waters protected by the American Navy. That would be a huge project for both countries.
And it really shows you the foresight that President Trump had on day one, signing that executive order to unleash Alaska's natural resource potential, prioritizing their liquefied natural gas development. Talk about the importance of having a president who recognizes the importance of domestic energy production and the value that can have when it comes to self-reliance for a country and exporting gas. Talk about how it affects everything in American life, sir.
Oh, it's simply huge. Look, that's why I came to Washington to partner with this president. I've been passionate about energy my whole life. Energy is simply the infrastructure that enables everything else we do. If you make energy expensive and unreliable, not a lot's going to happen in your state or your country. Your people are going to have less opportunity and lower quality lives. You unleash energy, drive down the cost of energy. Manufacturing will relocate there. AI will locate there. People's heating bills will be lower. People's lives will be better, and they'll have more money to spend on travel or other things for their families. So this is a president very passionate about energy, very passionate about this country, and very passionate about unleashing American business, American capital, American entrepreneurs to deliver more energy, to make American lives better, and strengthen our relationships with our allies overseas.
Is this just a start, sir? Is this the first step in really expanding the way that the United States exports energy to other countries?
This is just the start. It's been an exciting first few weeks, but you're going to see a lot in the coming years. We're going to see nuclear energy, led by the United States, start to take off again. You may see the start of fusion energy, a next-generation nuclear energy, come out of United States commercial companies and research facilities. We're going to see quantum computing hit scale and merge with AI to allow innovation in drug discovery and energy production and solving all sorts of intractable problems. This is what happens when you have optimistic, bold leadership that wants to unleash America, not bottle America up.
Mr. Secretary, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you for what you do. Appreciate it.
And straight ahead on One America News, the SEC is confirming the popular video game platform Roblox is under investigation following allegations of inflated user metrics by Hindenburg Research. Bloomberg News confirmed the investigation on Friday after a FOIA request was made. In October, Hindenburg Research released a report accusing Roblox of massively inflating user activity metrics to drive up the stock price. It also detailed a lack of safety measures, citing allegations of in-game sexual exploitation and glorifying violence. Roblox denied these claims, though shares of the company have dropped significantly. Meta is laying off more than 3,000 employees. Zuckerberg made that announcement on Friday on the company's workplace forum. Meta Platforms is cutting 5% of its workforce, which equals to about 3,600 employees. Zuckerberg said the layoffs will target low-performing employees. Affected workers will be notified on Monday and receive a severance package. This will be Meta's largest layoff since it cut more than 21,000 jobs 2 years ago. Well, UK officials are ordering Apple to create an apparent backdoor to allow it to retrieve all user content uploaded to the cloud. Francis McGuire has our report.
Britain has ordered Apple to provide access to users' encrypted accounts. That's according to a report from the Washington Post on Friday, which cited people familiar with the matter. Security officials want the US tech giant to create a so-called backdoor, one that allows them to retrieve all the content any Apple user worldwide has uploaded to the cloud. One source said the iPhone maker is likely to stop offering encrypted storage in the UK. That's instead of breaking the security promises it made to its users everywhere. Apple did not respond to a Reuters request for comment. A British Home Office spokesperson said they don't comment on operational matters. Britain in January used its regulatory power to launch an investigation into Apple and Google. It was over their smartphone operating systems, app stores, and browsers.
And consumers might want to think twice before trying a juice cleanse. A new study by Northwestern and San Rafael Universities found juice-based detox diets, even if done for a short amount of time, can lead to worsened gut and oral health. Researchers studied 3 groups of people. One group only consuming juice compared to 2 other groups that had food in their diets. The study's juice-only group showed drastic signs of inflammation due to an increase of gut bacteria. The study concluded with a well-balanced plant-based diet being the most favorable option. All right, Super Bowl is here, and food prices are still on the higher end of the market. Here's One America's McKenna Blackman.
Super Bowl season is here, and fans are gearing up for the big game. While many are looking forward to funny commercials, an entertaining halftime show, and an intense game between the Philadelphia Eagles and Kansas City Chiefs, shopping may be the less fun aspect, as the average grocery bill is still on the higher end. This is according to Joe Bagatas, an agricultural economics professor at Purdue University, who says prices for items like chicken wings are about 7% higher.
One popular item at Super Bowl parties is guacamole, which needs avocados. Avocado prices are about 14% higher than they were a year ago, and that has people concerned. Prices of some other items are also up this year. Chicken wings in particular are 7% higher.
While this is true for most grocery items, other snacks like chips and vegetables are more affordable this year in comparison to 2024.
On the other hand, prices of other goods are lower. Chips are lower, shrimp and broccoli for your veggie tray are all lower this year. On average, your Super Bowl party meal is going to cost about the same as it did a year ago, maybe slightly higher.
Not only this, but alcohol prices are reportedly on the up, with prices sitting 4 to 5% higher than this time last year. However, despite high prices for many game day items, some stores are running promotions for snacks and drinks to help alleviate costs for shoppers. Meantime, overall prices for game day groceries are expected to be in the same ballpark as 2024, which averaged about $100 to $200 per party of 10. McKenna Blackman, One America News.